The world is moving fast.
So fast.
And so fast, in fact, that the ability to just keep up, to adapt, and to, constantly learn new skills has become the quintessential business skill of our time. I mean, if you stop learning, you basically stop being relevant.
Exactly. And that's our mission for this deep dive, to distill a core framework for becoming what the sources call a dynamic learner.
And we're not just talking about, taking an online course every so often.
No, not at all. This is a fundamental shift in how you process everything: information, failure, even your downtime.
Okay, so let's set the scene for you. Just how volatile is a modern career path?
No.
The data is, frankly, staggering.
It really is.
On average, workers now hold 12 different jobs between the ages of 18 and 48.
12. So that old idea of spending 40 years mastering one role at one company?
It's gone. It's effectively gone.
And that volatility completely changes the equation for what we value in a worker, right? The value is shifting away from repetitive work.
The stuff that can be automated.
Precisely. Manual or clerical labor. It's moving toward customization, innovation, and, I think most critically, adaptation. You have to be able to solve new problems.
So what's driving this relentless change? Our sources point to a couple of major forces.
The first one is huge productivity improvements.
And this is a big one because we often think job losses, especially in manufacturing, are because of foreign trade.
That's the common narrative. But the data from 2000 to 2010 shows that 87% of manufacturing job losses were actually due to increased efficiency.
So just productivity. We simply need less labor to produce more stuff.
Exactly. And the second driver is this trend toward hyper-specialization.
Oh, yeah. The example from the medical field is wild.
Isn't it? The American Board of Medical Specialties recognizes, 37 specialties and 132 subspecialties.
It's just an endless fractal of expertise.
And one estimate suggests that a doctor would need to read for 29 hours a day just to keep up with the literature in their own domain.
29 hours a day. I mean, that's an immediate signal that static knowledge is dead.
Completely dead. You can't just know a field anymore. You have to be constantly learning how that field is changing.
Which brings us to the core premise of this whole conversation.
Right. That dynamic learning isn't some innate talent that only a few people have.
No, it's a process.
It's a trainable process.
Yeah.
And we're going to focus on the three most counterintuitive habits you need to build this framework, starting with the biggest mental roadblock we all face.
Okay, so the first pillar, and this one can be painful, is valuing failure. We all kind of get it intellectually. Failure is essential for growth. But in the real world, in any competitive environment, failure brings pain and the risk of being passed over for a promotion.
It's a huge risk.
So why do we know it's good, but dread it so much?
Well, it's deeply psychological. We suffer from something called atychiphobia, the intense fear of failure.
Right.
But maybe more important for dynamic learning, we suffer from impact bias.
And what's that exactly?
It's our tendency to drastically overestimate how painful and how long-lasting the suffering will be after something bad happens.
We catastrophize the downside.
We do. We suffer more in our imagination than in reality.
There was that classic experiment mentioned in the sources, the one about the gamble.
Yeah, the behavioral economics one. Participants were offered a simple 50-50 bet.
You could win $5 or you could lose $3. Mathematically, it's a great bet.
It's a fantastic bet, but the vast majority of people turned it down.
They turned it down. Why?
They anticipated that the pain of losing $3 would feel so much worse and last so much longer than the pleasure of winning 5.
So the fear of that feeling just paralyzed them.
It did. But what's so fascinating is when the researchers actually measured their emotional responses afterward.
What happened?
The reported unhappiness from the losers was almost perfectly balanced by the happiness of the winners. The perceived pain was way greater than the actual pain.
That is incredible.
Yeah.
So if we're so wired to avoid this feeling, how do we actually fight this bias? What's the actionable step?
You have to move failure out of the realm of kind of a personal moral fault and into the realm of data and process.
Okay.
Look at Tom Crosby, the CEO of Pal's Sudden Service. He overruled his own committee to launch a salad line.
And it failed.
Big time. At a cost of $500,000. I mean, that's a massive failure.
And in most places, that's when the finger pointing starts. Who's to blame?
But Crosby did the complete opposite.
Yeah.
He killed the salad line quickly. He admitted the failure, and then he publicly said, "This one was on me."
He took full ownership.
Full ownership. He removed the ambiguity, confronted the mistake, and made sure no one else became a scapegoat.
And by doing that, He learned something.
He learned critical lessons about their market, which he then used to successfully launch breakfast items later on. The failure didn't stop them. It actually refined their path forward.
So the key is to assign ownership quickly and pull out the learning before all that emotional scar tissue can set in.
Precisely. And for you, the listener, the actionable takeaways here are twofold.
Okay.
First, destigmatize the struggle. There was a study with high schoolers who read about scientists like Marie Curie.
Right. But not just their big accomplishments.
Exactly. They read about their technical difficulties and their personal struggles, and those kids showed performance improvements. They realized struggle wasn't a sign of being dumb, it was just part of the process.
They normalized the idea that the road to success is messy.
Yes. And second, use data to remove excuses. Take Intermountain Healthcare. Doctors there are allowed to deviate from the best practices.
But there's a catch.
There's a catch. If they do, they have to review the outcomes rigorously. The data either proves their new way was better, or it proves the standard process was right.
So there's no room to say, oh, it's just bad luck.
None. It forces an accurate assignment of responsibility to the process itself.
Okay, so if failure is the starting point, we need a better compass. This brings us to the second pillar, focusing on the process, not just the outcome.
And this one is so tough because society rewards outcomes. The promotion, the sale, the finished product.
Right.
So we all fall for outcome bias, where we assume a good outcome means a good process and a bad one.
Means a bad process, even if that's not true.
Exactly.
Could you give us an example of how that leads to some really poor decisions?
Sure. Think about professional sports coaches.
Okay.
They are far more likely to change their starting lineup, to just scramble the whole process after a narrow loss than after a narrow win.
Even if the reason for the loss was totally out of their control.
Even then, like if the other team just missed a bunch of easy shots, they blame the outcome, the loss on their process, the lineup, even when the process was actually sound.
That feels incredibly relatable. When things go bad, your first instinct is to tear everything down.
It is.
So contrast that panic with the approach of Dr. Booth, the orthopedic surgeon from the source material.
Dr. Booth was a master of process. He performed the most total knee replacements in the U.S., not because he was some kind of innate genius,
But because he was meticulous.
so meticulous. He would annually review his entire surgical tool set just to remove items he didn't use often.
Save time on sterilization and prep.
Yep. He insisted on working with the same surgical team every time. And he even focused on motivating the sterilization staff, the lowest paid people, by creating competitions to reduce errors.
Wow, that's an extreme focus on the little details. He saw that the big outcome, a successful surgery, depended on the smallest, most repeatable steps.
Absolutely. And this kind of intense process focus, it fosters a growth mindset.
The idea that your intelligence and abilities can be improved.
Right. As opposed to a performance mindset where you think your ability is fixed. If you believe your talent is just fixed, you're not going to bother refining the small steps.
So how do we make this work in a complex office environment? You can't exactly time how long it takes to sterilize tools in, say, a software company.
You make the process visible. This is where tools like value stream diagrams are so valuable. You literally map out every single step.
Like they did at Wipro Technologies.
Exactly. They applied a Toyota-inspired approach and found one team was wasting a ton of time because the test printers they needed were on a different floor.
So they had to physically walk every single time they needed feedback.
And that waste was totally invisible until they actually mapped the process.
That's amazing. A simple physical distance creating a friction point nobody saw because they were too focused on the output, not the workflow.
Precisely. And the second actionable takeaway here is using deliberate practice.
Okay, what does that mean in knowledge work?
It means breaking down complex skills into tiny, digestible pieces, focusing intensely on only one piece at a time, and then getting immediate, high-quality feedback.
So instead of trying to improve my whole presentation style at once,
You'd focus for a week just on your opening hook.
and get immediate feedback on just that one element.
Precisely. Or, in writing, you'd focus only on the clarity of your topic sentences before you even worry about the overall structure. It's systematic and focused.
It ensures you're targeting the biggest process flaws, not just kind of hoping for a better outcome next time. You got it.
So now we get to the third, and maybe the most difficult pillar, especially in today's world of constant pings and productivity tracking.
The need to recharge and reflect, not just take constant action.
We all feel that pull of the action bias.
It is so powerful. We're wired to believe that doing something is better than doing nothing.
Even when that something is statistically the wrong move.
The classic illustration is the soccer penalty kick.
Ah, the goalkeeper statistic.
Yes. So goalkeepers dive left or right 94% of the time.
Almost always.
But statistically, staying rooted in the center of the goal stops the shot more than twice as often.
The numbers are something like 33% versus maybe 14 or 12 for diving.
That's right. It's a huge difference.
So why do they move?
Yeah.
It's completely irrational based on the probability.
They move because of anticipated regret. They would regret failing after doing nothing, just standing still, far more than they would regret failing after making a big, heroic dive.
So moving looks like you're trying. It protects the ego. It protects the ego even if it hurts the team's chance of winning.
And we do that every day in the workplace. We rush into meetings, send a million emails.
We fill our schedules because being busy feels productive. But all that activity actually destroys real learning.
It does.
It does. And reflection is the essential antidote. Reflection is what enables double loop learning.
Okay, what's the difference between single and double loop?
Single loop learning is fixing a specific mistake. The fire alarm went off, so we reset it.
Got it.
Double loop is asking, why did the alarm go off? What's the root cause? What underlying assumption about our system is wrong?
And you can't get to that deeper understanding without pausing.
You can't, and that pause has measurable benefits. The sources had a study where people were asked to reflect for just 15 minutes a day during training.
And they outperformed the control group on a competence test.
They did. Reflection built their self-efficacy. It cemented what they knew and clarified where the gaps were.
The real-world proof of this is fascinating, too. Jay Vivedi, the CIO who modernized Shinsei Bank's IT systems.
An amazing story. He did it quickly and cheaply, and he was successful because he was so contemplative.
He used meditation and a learning journal to clear his head.
He recognized that if he was physically or mentally exhausted, he just couldn't see the systemic solutions.
So for him, stepping back was actually an accelerant.
Precisely. He said he needed to take a break, go for a walk, because, quote, with my head clear and my body refreshed, I could actually get more done. He optimized for clarity, not for activity.
So if this action bias is so strong, what are the structural fixes we can put in place to force ourselves to reflect?
You have to block out thinking time, and you have to treat it like the most important appointment of your week.
So not just a vague no meeting Friday.
No, something structured, like an after-action review, even for small projects, where you intentionally analyze what happened, why it happened, and what you'd do differently.
It has to be structured, not just, staring out a window.
Although that can help too. And if you can't get a full hour, use unexpected short breaks. The sources noted that research in tomato fields, where even a 5-minute unexpected break improved worker productivity by over 10%. That short pause reboots your cognitive resources.
The mantra to remember is, don't avoid thinking by being busy.
Perfect.
This has been a really essential framework. So to recap, we've covered 3 pretty counterintuitive pillars for dynamic learning: valuing failure, embracing process over outcome, and pausing for reflection instead of just defaulting to action.
And if you connect these pillars to the bigger picture of your career, the goal is to become what's known as a T-shaped person.
Okay, break that down.
The vertical bar of the T is your deep specialized knowledge in one area. That's your competitive advantage.
And the horizontal bar?
That's your variety. Broad skills, cross-disciplinary knowledge, the ability to talk to different teams, a specialist who's too narrow can't collaborate, and a generalist who's too shallow can't offer deep insight.
So the combination is what makes you relevant.
Exactly. The variety gives you connections, the depth gives you mastery, and this whole process of dynamic learning is what keeps that T-shaped current and growing.
But none of this works without one final ingredient, which is just determination. This is not an easy path. It's a never-ending process.
It really is. And to even kick off that process, you have to fight a really common cognitive distortion.
The Lake Wobegon effect.
Where everyone thinks they're above average, it makes it incredibly difficult to accurately assess what you truly need to learn.
Okay, so we want to leave you with a final provocative thought to help you break through that self-assessment bias.
We all have strengths we love to talk about, but the sources suggest you have to identify your critical weaknesses, the order qualifiers. These are the things that are like a gate to the next level of your journey.
So ask yourself, and maybe more importantly, ask a few trusted colleagues for some really honest feedback.
What is the one critical weakness that, if you don't address it, will stop your greatest strengths from having their maximum impact?
Finding that painful truth. That's the real starting line for dynamic growth.